Our first case is going to be Mr. Steve Alms. Mr. Alms, would you please introduce yourself and give us your DOC number?
My name is Steve Alms, and my DOC number is 600141.
Mr. Alms, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we're going to have a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who wish to have input to speak. Speaking on your behalf today is Ms. Mandy Hill, and in opposition is Mr. Randy Meyer with the District Attorney's Office in Jefferson Parish. At the end of that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board, and then we'll vote. You understand our procedure?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Steve L. Alms, DOC number 600141. Mr. Holmes' date of birth is May the 1st of 1976. He's classified as a 6th felony offender. He has he's not eligible for good time. He has full term date of February the 7th of 2027. He is serving a 5-year term for the charges of simple burglary as a habitual offender, having been sentenced on September the 19th of 2022. Is all of that accurate, Mr. Alms?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Alms, your case has been assigned to me, so I will begin our interview process. Mr. Alms, how old are you, sir?
I'm 47 years old.
How long have you been in prison on these charges?
I have been in 16 months, sir, between the parish and here.
Tell me why you're in prison right now on these charges. Tell me what you did.
Well, I made a bad decision and tried to steal some copper to get some extra money and was caught. It was a stupid thing to do.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background.
Well, I went to high school in Florida and I got a GED the first time I was arrested in '96. And I've been just doing carpenter training and things like that. Had a successful,
What grade did you quit high school?
10th grade.
10th grade?
Yes, sir.
Why did you quit?
Because I was working, strung out on drugs.
Tell me a little bit about your drug history. When did you start using drugs?
When I was about 17, and I was a full-time addict till about 2000.
Let's slow down. Let's slow down. 17 years old, what did you start using?
Marijuana.
All right. What did you progress to?
Cocaine and heroin.
Tell me a little bit about that progression. You started out smoking marijuana. How often were you smoking marijuana?
Just a little bit recreationally at first, and then it became every day. And then, slowly over time. So I was introduced to cocaine, and then I get too strung out on that. So I do the heroin to come down, and it became a vicious cycle.
How often were you doing these drugs?
Pretty much daily, sir.
I'm looking at your record. You've had at least 23 arrests. You've got criminal records in Louisiana, Texas, Florida, Washington, and South Carolina. Multiple felony and misdemeanor convictions. Tell me about that. Tell me why so much crime. I mean, I hear you're a drug addict, but you said you worked. Did you ever have a job?
I did have a job, sir, but I'd be too strung out to go to work, so I would make poor decisions. And I've never been sentenced to this much time, and I never tried to do anything different until the last time I was arrested. I entered the drug court program, and that did me a lot. I learned a lot, and I graduated drug court successfully in 2017, and the drugs have pretty much come to an end since then.
When did you graduate drug court? Where at?
At Plaquemines Parish, 2017.
Well, when did you get arrested on the charges that you're in jail for?
2020, sir.
I thought you said the drugs came to an end after you finished drug court.
Yes, sir. The drugs didn't have anything to do with this. I just made a bad decision trying to get some extra money.
You didn't tell the police when they arrested you that you had been using heroin that day?
Yes, sir. But
Well,
I
have you
wasn't,
been?
I had been, but I had not been strung out on it. I had a relapse. I had been doing well for myself until,
Okay, so let me slow you down. You're a drug addict. You quit doing drugs after you finished drug court.
yes, sir.
You had a relapse, so
Yes,
you
sir.
don't consider that to be a problem. I mean,
Well,
you
yes,
said you quit doing drugs after 2017. You
yes,
didn't.
sir. Yes,
What
sir.
were you doing after drug court to stay off of drugs?
I was going to meetings and I had a sponsor and I was working my program. And
And
then,
so why did you stop?
well, I made the decision, I made a bad decision and thought that I had it under control. And so I quit doing those things and then it came back.
So what do you think about that? What
I
do you
think,
think the answer to this is?
well, I need to stay in my meetings and stay on my program.
How long were you in the programs after drug court?
I was in the program for about 2 years,
How often, when was the last time you went to an AA meeting or an NA meeting prior to your arrest in 2020,
about 6 months,
2022? I'm sorry?
about 6 months, sir.
So you quit going to your meetings after about 6 months, and why?
I thought I had it under control. I thought I had it under control, even though the program had taught me that I never would. I needed to stay with it. Something in my head told me that, yet another bad decision told me that I could handle it without the help.
What, if any, kind of programs have you taken while you've been in prison?
Well, sir, I'm in the honor dorm as a trustee. I don't meet the criteria to take any of the classes because I have too much time, is what I'm told. But I have requested thinking for a change, parenting and reentry, sir. But they say that I have too much time. I'm too far down the list.
Mr. Alms, you're 47 years old. You're a 6th felony offender.
Yes, sir.
You've taken some drug programs. You go back to using drugs. I mean, you're kind of downplaying the fact that you say, oh, it was just a little relapse. Wasn't a relapse. I mean, you got arrested. You're in prison. Are you telling me that's the only time you relapsed after you quit going to your meetings?
No, sir. It was about the 3rd or 4th one.
So you were back on drugs again.
I was on my way full time. Yes, sir.
And typically a drug user, an abuser, and an addict is going to downplay their drug use.
Yes, sir.
When I started questioning you, you said, I quit doing drugs in 2017. And because I had the police report, because I knew what you had said, I questioned you about the heroin. And then
Yes,
you
sir.
finally admitted that.
Yes, sir.
You were back strung out on drugs again, weren't you? You were sound asleep when they caught you, laying down in the field.
Yes, sir.
We can both agree that you were back strung out on drugs?
Yes, sir. I was on my way. I wasn't full blown strung out, but it wouldn't have been long, sir.
So what do we need to do to prevent that from happening again? You're asking me and this board to let you out early
Yes, sir.
so you can go back to doing what?
Well, go back to my meetings. I've already been in touch with my old sponsor who's willing to take me back. His name is Mike G. And I'm moving to a different location to be with my daughter and stay on my meetings and my program. And I'm going to try to volunteer at the old drug court facility. They take alumni people. And Mr. Judge Connor, he said I could come back anytime and speak and sit in with them. I'm just going to try to work and be with my family and do things a little different, sir. What I've learned while I've been here is that, previously I wasn't concerned with my actions. I was only worried about myself and the things that I needed immediately, or I thought that I needed immediately. And my family and them need me now, but they needed me just as much then. And I didn't take that into consideration. And what I've learned is the things that I do don't just affect me, right then. They affect me in the long term and my family and the people around me. So, those kind of things are what define a man. And I'm trying to make sure that my definition of myself is different, sir.
You didn't learn those things in drug court? How long were you in drug court?
About 4 years.
4 years. Who was your judge?
Judge Connor.
You didn't learn those things while you were in drug court? You didn't realize those things while you were in drug court? Did you go see the judge every week?
Yes, sir.
You go to classes 3 times a week, 4 times a week?
Yes, sir.
Got tested the whole time?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't realize what you telling me you now realize?
I heard it and it was planted in my head, but I didn't necessarily believe it at the time. I think, I'll be honest, I gained the information, but I was just kind of trying to get by, sir. I guess while they say in the meetings that I wasn't technically ready to receive that information. But you know, this time after, you know, my family is ill and things like that, and all this time that I'm facing and I've been doing has made me realize, as you say, I'm 47 years old and I just don't have it in me anymore, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Alms. Staff there, can you tell us anything about Mr. Alms? How's his disciplinary record there?
Oh, speaking to staff, I want to know about disciplinary record.
What can you tell us about Mr. Alms since he's been there?
Sir, I'm sorry.
What can you tell us about Mr. Alms since he's been there?
As far as Mr. Alms myself, sir, I've never had no issues with him myself. No write-ups at all that I know of. It's kind of just, I'm not gonna say blended in, but I mean, he hasn't caused us no trouble.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you, sir. Any further questions? Now we'll hear from Miss Mandy Hill.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Doing fine. Thank you, ma'am. Would you introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know?
Yes, sir. So my name is Mandy. I'm 47. I met Steve back in 2012. He was in drug court. He was doing really well. I learned a lot from him. I did get clean when I met him. He helped me and I became pregnant, and she'll be 10 years old next month. We have a daughter. She has Down syndrome and autism, and she's nonverbal, and I take myself, and it's a big job. And I really feel that she needs her father, and I think he's ready to be a good father. And I think when he sees her, he'll fall in love with her. He was in her life for the first 2 years, but then like he said, he fell off into the wrong, he went back into the situation. It's very, it's very hard. Myself, I was an addict, but I know once he meets his daughter and he sees her, he will, he's got all the reasons to do well. I have a truck for him. He's going to live in my home with my daughter, and I have a truck ready for him, and I have a job lined up for him. And I just hope that you'll let him come and be with me and his daughter. She really needs him. And it's a lot for me to do on my own. She's nonverbal, and she's maturing. She's maturing really fast, and she needs her dad. So if you would just consider that, please.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Randy Meyer.
Good morning, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. I've listened to the interview with Mr. Alms, and I've got some real concerns. I think he clearly needs some additional substance abuse treatment programs. The last thing I'd like to see is him to get out and he'll be right back at it. And then he may end up, with the heroin and the fentanyl, let's slay that stuff, and with the cocaine these days, he very well could end up dead. And something we don't want to see. I think clearly his responses show that he needs more treatment. He needs to have more treatment. And I know the board has heard this from me before, but Mr. Alms, I'm going to say I've got a friend who's an alcoholic for over 30 years. He's been going to AA meetings. He's a sponsor. He goes every week. He goes multiple times every week. He doesn't quit. He's never stopped. And it's something you can't do. You can't stop doing that. You got to maintain you got to continue in your treatment and continue doing that for the rest of your life, or you can have a bad consequence. So at this time, we're opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Alms, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes, sir. I would just like to say thank you for your time, and I am definitely going to stay in the meetings and work with my sponsor if granted the chance to. I apologize for what I've done. You know, I wrote the victim an apology letter. I got no response. You know, I've already taken steps to make sure that my sponsor is in place, and I'm gonna do the right thing if given the chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Mr. Alms, you know, you mentioned earlier in our interview that this is the first time you've ever done this kind of hard time.
Yes,
Been in
sir.
jail this long. I'm hoping that maybe it woke you up. You went through drug court. You said you were there for 4 years. I'm a former drug court judge. I was on the drug court for 14 years. Mr. Myers said something that resonated with me. We had several graduates who had completed the program.
Yes, sir.
And within months, I was at their funeral because they thought they had it whipped.
Yes, sir.
And you'll never whip it. It will take you over any opportunity it gets. You've got to stick with the program and you've got to stay with the program.
Yes, sir.
You've got some history with drug court. You know, my experience has always been when I was a drug court judge, that the more treatment you get, the more likely something is going to sink in. I hope you learned some basics. I'm willing to grant conditionally you're completing the long-term treatment program, Steve Hoyle. And the reason I do that is because you did go to drug court, you did complete that program successfully, and I think you've got a background that might be able to benefit you if you can get into long-term treatment right now and get and really understand deeply inside that you're an addict and it's a disease and you've got to control it, otherwise it will control you.
Yes,
You're
sir.
very fortunate, as Mr. Meyer pointed out, that heroin you were using wasn't laced with fentanyl, and you're not in a grave right now instead of in a prison.
Yes, sir.
So my vote today is to grant conditionally on your completing the Steve Hall program, not the long-term Steve Hall program. And when you are released, you were to be drug tested randomly. You're to have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. and you're to do 3 AA meetings per week.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just one of 3 votes, but that's my vote. Mr. Freeman?
I concur. You definitely have a serious problem. You have the basic treatment. Now it's time to put some finishing touches on it. Steve Hall is the best program we have. So my vote is to grant conditional that upon you completing the Steve Hall long-term program.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Alms, I see it a little differently. I sit and I listen intently, and Mr. Alms, you are still in denial. You don't even think you're a drug addict. Mr. Marabella had to pull the information out of you. It was just that one time. And then it was that only 2 times, it's 3 times. You are back on heroin and you were trying to hide it. You've only been incarcerated 25% of your sentence. I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're even ready for Steve Hall. You have to make it up in your mind. And when you go to Steve Hall, you're going to put 110% effort into that program, or it's not going to do you any good. You were in drug court for 4 years. And then when it ended and you graduated, you're back on drugs. You have to get your mind ready, and you have to make up in that mind, it's time, I'm finished. And then you can be based on an extensive criminal history, 6 felony convictions, opposition from the DA's office, opposition from law enforcement, and a lack of rehabilitative programs. I'm going to deny your request.
Got 2 votes. All right. Mr. Alms, you have 2 votes to grant, 1 vote to deny. You haven't completed pre-release, so under our rules, your parole has been denied today. I'm going to encourage you to take whatever programs are available to you, especially drug treatment programs, so you can move forward. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.